All right, welcome back to the episode of these crazy people, or at least just one crazy person who just eats meat and can't stop talking about it. I'm Tom. I'm here doing a little solo show. Um, Justin's tied up with his girlfriend. Hopefully, they get free soon. And of course, Joe's not here because lives on the other side of the planet, and it's hard to line things up. So, anyways, I hope everybody out there is doing well. Um, I did a video earlier with Jonathan Griffith. Make sure I got his name right. Jonathan Griffiths. He's one of our UK counterparts. Him and I had a lot to talk about in common. I'm sure we'll get that video out before too terribly long. So, anyways, he's into weightlifting slash bodybuilding as I am. Um, he's a carnivore, and he's also on the spectrum. So, anyways, we had a really good chat this afternoon, or it was before noon for me. But, anyways, so look for that coming out, and hopefully, get to talk to him some more, and hopefully, you'll get to see him have some discussions with some other people in the carnivore sphere soon enough. So, anyways, if you guys got any questions or comments, hit me up. Still eating mostly raw here. I do eat cooked meat as well, in case people are wondering. You get that question. And yeah, I had a nice hamburger yesterday morning for breakfast, and I did I didn't eat the bun. So if you didn't see the follow up photo, people are always worried you ate a bun or something. So it's funny what people focus on. It's like that shopping cart I had full of food, and the only comments I got were about the block of cheese. They was like, "Oh, you like Havarti? It's great." So, anyways, um, haven't had a lot of extra content out lately. Just still got two videos that are queued up to go out that Justin and I pre-recorded on those weekends when we couldn't do live shows. Still haven't managed to get those out, but they will be coming soon. And uh, I will hopefully be scheduling some more guests soon. I was just talking with Jonathan about that. You got people that want to do interviews, or come on and talk about something, and then uh, the the date comes and goes, and they're not available, and then it takes forever to get it lined up again. So it's a common problem. Ask anybody who's got a YouTube channel or they bring other people on. So, um, but hopefully we'll get some of the usual suspects. And I've been trying to get Amber O'Hearn to come on here. So if you guys have any good questions for her, let me know. I think all I got to do is come up with some topics that she wants to talk about, which is fair enough. Um, I'd really like to talk to her. I've been a big fan of hers for a very long time, and I like to tease her on Facebook whenever possible. So, but getting her to do a video hasn't happened yet. So, if you guys got any good questions for her, let me know. Maybe we could put something together that really interests her. So, um, let's see what else is going on. Um, I talked to Jonathan today about the differences that we see in people, because there's a lot of sort of established sort of guidelines or premises that you base your eating habits on. Um, for instance, a lot of people do OMAD, a lot of people do fasting, a lot of people are eating, let's say 2 ribeyes a day, and a lot of people start out on high fat and stay there. And we were talking about how there's differences for people. Um, One, like him and I lift a lot, and well, he said he trains 4 or 5 times a week. I train something like 7 to 10 times a week. So not only do him and I both eat more frequently than most people do, I eat 4 or 5 times a day. And a lot of that has to do with just how much energy I need. And in spite of the imperfections in the calorie system, it's still sort of the best metric we have for sort of discussing these things. Um, so I like to say that um, I will frequently defer to, I should say, the electronic data I collect, which gives me a good idea of how much energy I'm expending. And the typical person is usually eating 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 calories worth of food a day, but I'm usually like no lower than 3,500. And, I've had some big days, albeit rare ones, where by midnight I've expended over 9,000 calories. So eating that much food in one meal or two meals or three meals is is a tremendous task. And I don't like stuffing myself. Anybody's stuffed themselves and then gone to the gym knows what I'm talking about. And I don't really think there's much point in being uncomfortable in general, anyways. So I get it. Like I've said many times before, fasting is a powerful tool, but it doesn't work for me for a lifestyle. Um, I would only use it if I had a reason. Maybe I was sick or something, I was stomach problems or something like that. But I don't really see the benefits of fasting being superior to the benefits of exercise, right? And my preferred activity is weightlifting. So, oh, Alice is here. Hi, Alice. How are you? And so for me, I eat so I can lift, which is a common sort of moniker that people say, yeah, you shouldn't be exercising so you can eat more. You should eat so you can exercise, right? And oh, here's Christina. Hi, Christina. Um, so when you kind of shift the paradigm of eating, we all sort of probably start in this with this concept that if you want to be healthy or you want to be leaner, you need to eat less and move more. And for me and a lot of other people, we actually have trouble eating enough. So getting in enough food to support your activities is problematic. And if you want to get leaner, it's usually beneficial, especially when you eschew the carbohydrates and all the other um, plants out there, all the other plant nutrients or anti-nutrients or fillers. Generally eating more is the way to get leaner, and it's certainly the way to build muscle, and of course strength training is a little different than bodybuilding. Bodybuilders are trying to shape muscles more. They're really focused on physique and the aesthetics of muscles. Whereas when you're weightlifting for weightlifting's sake, you're really trying to develop strength. And some people kind of say, well, there's not much of a huge difference, but I mean, when you get into it, there kind of is because oh, Sarah Sapien's here too. How you doing, Sarah? Um, you are the challenge is not just creating muscle, but it's also recruiting those muscle fibers to move when you want them to. And that a lot of that has to do with sort of grooming your nervous system to activate those muscle fibers. So, and since I do when time allows, I go lift twice in a day. And for me, that works good. I know a lot of people, including I'm sure my friend Bart, would say that the science does not suggest that that is a good idea. The evidence contraindicates such activity, but that works good for me. I go work, I work the muscles hard, and then there's hours, sometimes the better part of a day in between going back, and in that time in between, there's a lot of recovery. So you can go back in and lift just as much as it did earlier that day. And there's feeding going on there too, as well. So that seems to work for me. That seems to be optimal for me. And I'm not alone in that. And then it helps leads you down that path of the really sort of, I think of it as sort of the holy grail of being able to build muscle and get leaner at the same time. So that practice lends itself to that. And of course, a lot of people, that sends off the alarms like, oh my God, you're eating, every time you eat, you're releasing insulin and your blood sugar is going up, and or vice versa, right? Your blood sugar goes up, so your insulin goes up. But you do have to produce sugars in order to recover from strenuous muscular activity. And that is just part of the equation. And so, like we talked about something like HbA1c levels or something like that. I don't mine have remained stable and in the normal range for quite some time. I had blood work done a month ago, maybe a little more, 6 weeks ago, and I was in the normal range. And I think that's because that glucose that goes into the bloodstream is being quickly absorbed, so it's not in the blood long enough to really damage the red blood cells. And so one would presume it's probably not damaging the walls of the arteries as well, which is, the major concern, that you get inflammation, particularly on the high pressure side of the heart. On the left side, you get inflammation in the wall, and then the body starts covering it over with plaque. And then over a long period of time, the body stabilizes that with calcium. And then, you build up this blockage there. So I know to some degree people are concerned about body fat to some degree. They're concerned about inflammation and atherosclerosis and stuff like that. But I'm not really concerned about it, because it seems like the inflammation is not prevalent in my body. And I think the processes are working as they should, as we evolve to. Another reason why I don't confine my meal time is because my goal isn't necessarily just to get leaner. My goal is to be able to lift more, so, and recover quickly. So if you wanted to get really lean and, say, see your six pack or something like that, then, you could use a tool like fasting. But I don't think it's optimal for a lot of other things. I mean, and that's really probably something you would do temporarily. So I know I'm kind of at odds. I started out, when I started out going low carb and learning about keto, I experimented a lot with fasting. I was completely enamored with the fact that human beings could go so long without eating, and I think that, in the past we probably had to, be able to sustain a fast so that we could acquire more food, right? But I don't think we did it intentionally, So that's kind of where I part ways with a lot of people. And, I think there's room for different opinions about that. So, eating frequency, I think high frequency versus low frequency can work. And of course, you really got to know what you want. I was talking to somebody yesterday about, coaching. And one of the hard parts about, you get people who contact you and they're like, yeah, can you help me, with weightlifting or eating or whatever, but they're not clear about what their goals are, other than a lot of people just want to lose weight, So you kind of have to see where their head's at, how much they're willing to change what they eat. Are they willing to develop a habit of going to the gym and working out, or not, or some other sort of regular exercise, right? So that's the question. And for that reason, I think a lot of the people in the carnivore space that are successful are people that had serious problems. They they're motivated by their own suffering and illness. So um, those people are much more motivated than the average person who just looks in the mirror and goes, I have gained some weight. I want to get it off, you know. And we've said many times, many of the people that come from the vegan community actually make great carnivores because they're already disciplined eaters. You know, they already know that they ate in the past based on a certain philosophy or a certain strategy, and they're just changing that strategy, but they already have the discipline and the behaviors to follow through. Whereas the general person off the street who hasn't done anything like that doesn't have it. So another thing I noticed recently was people making comments about falling off the wagon and eating something they shouldn't have, and not feeling so good. And you know, that's a really common thing. So I mean, a lot of people don't have real serious um, health consequences from it. So they seem to be more likely to be the ones that go, oh yeah, I ate some baked potatoes or ate some pizza or whatever, and I feel icky. I won't do that again. And but at the same time, they tend to beat themselves up, which doesn't do anybody any good. I always tell them, just get back on the bandwagon. It happens to a lot of people. And I'm not opposed to trying something to see how well I tolerate it. When Justin and Joe were here, we had all kinds of random things we wouldn't normally eat, but we were trying to help Joe have a good time and kind of have a great experience of just what it's like to eat here, and other activities. But so there was we drifted off the reservation a little bit here and there. Nothing too serious. Oddly enough, the one thing that had some consequences for me and Joe was a Korean barbecue. So, and I think it was just the spices and the sauces and stuff like that, because we were just eating meat, but some of it was heavily seasoned and some of it was heavily marinated and so on and so forth. And that kind of took its toll on me and Joe, but those consequences lasted like 6 hours or something like that. It wasn't a long protracted discomfort or anything like that. So, I know next time I go to Korean barbecue to be much more choosy. So, and stuff like that happens. So, um, I obviously start eating meat that's been marinated in some sort of sweet sauce or something that can be a problem for some people. Other people, they eat sweet barbecue sauce or whatever, and no big deal. So we all kind of just got to find our own limits. I mean, I always try and push the angle of this being a quality of life thing. And if, eating some barbecue sauce on your ribs or something, it is important to you and you tolerate it, and, do it. People shouldn't be, some people shouldn't be shaming them for it, It's not for everybody. And there are people that, are genuinely carb addicted. Um, and something like sweet barbecue sauce could easily trigger a binge into the sweets world, and you don't want that, but not everybody is like that. I mean, if I eat something sweet, I don't run around looking for something else sweet to eat. If I go have some ribs and they got sauce on it, it doesn't start some sort of chain reaction for me, but I can see, well, I know it does for some people. So I've seen it. And you see that particularly in people who are trying to start low carb or something. They go no sugar and they're great for a couple of weeks, and then something happens, and then boom, they're eating more sugar than they ever did before. So it can happen, and again, I try and encourage people not to beat themselves up, and I don't even necessarily encourage them to go back to low carb or carnivore immediately, because it's it's important to meet people where they're at. Sometimes they're just not ready, and sometimes the very things that triggered them to go off menu are still a problem in their life. So a lot of times it's more important to um, just encourage them to deal with the things that are creating the other stress in their life, and then refocus on going low carb. So um, when you're a coach, you see this all the time. And of course, when you talk to other coaches, you hear about it all the time. Because a lot of people are dealing with things. They're dealing with all kinds of disorders. There's quite a few people in the carnivore sphere that come from eating disorders, but there's also many people that have had substance abuse problems or um, people abuse problems, you know, and those types of things, getting on the right diet helps you deal with them. But when you're in the midst of the turmoil, it's not always the easiest or time to engage in trying to change everything in your life. And like I've said many times, it's better to do one thing at a time. So if you're if you're having a tumultuous life, you're probably not going to want to change your diet and start exercising, start taking supplements, and doing whatever add-on fasting or whatever. It's probably best not to do that all at once. That's the least likely way to succeed. Um, but then some people, they've got the rest of their life together. They're not stressed out and they're core hard. They want to jump in head first. They want to, wake up January 1st and start doing everything different. So again, that's about meeting people where they're at. And even if you don't have a coach, that's something to think about, right? What type of personality are you? Where are you in your life? What do you think you can sustain? I mean, in this day and age, a lot of people work from home. There's plenty of people that are, a stay-at-home parent or whatever, or retired, and they can cook whenever they want. They got their kitchen at their disposal. And then the polar opposite of that is probably me, where I'm not home that much. Even when I am home, I tend to be very busy. So for me, it's all about meal prepping, planning everything out. I literally am like trying to figure out when to go to the store to get all this stuff. What stuff, I got a list on my phone, stuff I want, how many pounds of steak am I going to get? How much hamburger am I going to get? All that. And then I get it and I got to prep it on the weekend. I got to make time on the weekend to prep all that. And then when I'm working, I got to take it with me. And of course, if you want to eat 4 or 5 times a day, most of your meals aren't even going to be at home. So if you're not a stay-at-home worker guy like a Justin or Raymond or something like that, you can't just pop out of your chair and mosey over to the kitchen and heat up some ribeye or whatever it is you're eating. Then you've got to plan ahead, and you gotta plan ahead with food that you're gonna be happy to eat when you eat it. So you're not, because like me, I spend a lot of time in traffic, spend a lot of time at the office, spend more time in traffic, and then go to the gym. And there's a fast food restaurant. Every time I turn my head, there's another one. There's a McDonald's, Jack in the Box, whatever. And so if you don't have food with you that you want to eat, those temptations are always going to be there. Especially it's like, you're on your way to the gym and you're hungry. Nobody likes to work out hungry. I think most people work out best when they're fed. The exception to that is I have experienced that fasted state and doing cardio in the morning. And there does seem to be some sort of advantage as far as just doing more cardio. But at the same time, when I tried that, I wasn't making any progress. So even though it seemed like the cardio was easier at the time, I wasn't making any progress. And now I don't really do any cardio. The lifting I do is pretty intense. As people who spend time with tell you, I have a tremendous amount of endurance. So I can be on my feet all day, whether it's working at a demolition derby in the pit or hanging out with the tourists and walking from Santa Monica down to Venice Beach and all around. Oh, Emily Harvo is here. Well, thank you. She complimented me on my voice. She asked me, "Do you get burger patties at the drive-thru? I love those. No cheese, as there's cheese seems like plastic." I do get burger patties at restaurants. I do go through a drive-through occasionally. A lot of the places I go that I will not only get burger patties, and I usually do get cheese. It kind of depends because you're right. Some of the places the cheese is pretty nasty. Um, but I have some places I go that also make chili, and so I know here a lot of people distinguish between chili with beans and what they call Texas style chili, which has no beans in it. It's just meat. And maybe some of that chili is, adulterated with starches or something like that, but I don't really seem to notice. And frankly, it makes up a very small um, percentage of my diet. So I do make chili at home because it's very convenient. Um, so a lot of times I'll order hamburger patties with chili, which is nice because the chili's nice and moist too, So no matter how many times I go somewhere and go, yeah, when you cook that hamburger, make it as rare as possible. I never get a rare burger patty. So, and I like it. I like my meat, moist, juicy, and rare or raw if possible. So anyways, yeah, I do. And, um, uh, I will, like I had a burger yesterday at a place, at a restaurant, and that burger came with fried egg, bacon, a hot dog, and there's something else in there, I forget. But anyways, that's a pretty amazing burger, and I just ordered it the way they make it, without onions because I don't like the smell of onions unless they're grilled. But and I got it and I ate it, and I can eat a burger out of the bun and use the bun, basically to keep my fingers clean and throw the bun away. Now, oftentimes I throw the lettuce away too because most lettuce is just freaking bitter. If it's not bitter, if it's like a iceberg or something that has no flavor, then sometimes I'll just eat it because I don't notice any difference when I eat something like that, so I don't worry about it. Yeah, bun napkins, exactly. So, yeah, I'd posted a picture of that burger I ate yesterday, and somebody's like, "I see bun on there," and then I had a picture of the plate where I ate the burger and left the bun on the plate and the lettuce and the pickle and all that stuff. I'm not really even opposed to having a pickle, but sometimes the pickles just, they're not the type I like, so then I don't eat them. And I mean, yeah, it's a plant, but I eat pickles like I might eat a pickle on a burger or something like once a month or something, and I don't notice any negative effect. It's just really just another seasoning to me. So, um, some people that would bother them. A lot of those fermented foods are high in histamine. So people I know, like Christina, is doing the histamine battle. My friend Karina, she's had tremendous issues with histamines. They don't seem to histamines and foods don't seem to bother me, but I'm not really a big fan of the fermented foods per se. Anyways, I know a lot of people are convinced you needed fermented foods in order to enhance your gut biome, but my gut biome seems to be fine just feeding it meat. And somebody else asked me this question earlier today. I post pictures of my shopping cart when I'm shopping, and there's always shrimp in there. And people ask me, "Well, do you eat fish?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do eat fish." And I think a meat is meat. So fish is meat. Eggs are meat. Chickens are meat. I don't eat a lot of chicken, but I will eat chicken. Um, Fish. I'll eat any kind of fish. And if I have my druthers, I'll go eat sashimi. Of course, it's expensive, but that's my favorite way to eat fish. And I mean, when I say fish, I mean I'll eat octopus, squid, shellfish, clams, oysters, mussels, crabs. I was telling a friend last night. It's like I like crab, but crab is a lot of work for not a lot of meat. So I'm not a big fan of crab just for all the mess you got to make to get the meat out of the critter. Whereas lobster, like you get that nice big piece of meat um, pretty easily compared to a crab. So, and of course, you get make the argument about shellfish. They can be a lot of work if they're not already shucked for you. So hard to fill up on shellfish, but they do make a nice addition to food. Like, I'll go eat. One of my favorite things to do. Don't know of any restaurants that serve bouillabaisse, but when I was a kid, that was my favorite. And then now sometimes I find Cioppino at places like we have a place called King's Fish House. It's a small chain, and they make a fantastic Cioppino, and it's in the spicy red sauce, so there's tomato in there. But there's all these chunks of fish and all the shellfish, mussels, and clams and oysters, and then there's a crab on top, and the crab's a mess. And I actually Doug Farnsworth is the executive chef, it turns out, for that restaurant. And I was like, oh, I love the Cioppino there. And we were talking about the Cioppino and how much fun it is to eat, but it's very messy. I always tell the waitress, I'm like, you're gonna have to hose me down when I get done with this, because I'm gonna have that spicy red sauce everywhere. And of course, some people don't tolerate tomato. It doesn't seem to bother me, but I really only eat tomato in situations like that. Or I do put some tomato sauce in my chili. I do like that. So, but other than that, I don't walk around eating tomatoes. Occasionally, I might have a burger and there's a slice of tomato on there, and I don't take it off if it's a good tomato. But you know how it is. A lot of places, you get a slice of tomato and it's not even really ripe. It's not really flavorful, and if anything in a tomato is going to irritate people, it's usually the skin and the seeds. So if that's the bulk of what you're eating and it's not even ripe, then I'm gonna throw it in the trash. But a slice of tomato or some tomato sauce now and then doesn't create a problem for me. So again, kind of a quality of life issue. I like spicy food. I mentioned this before. Black pepper doesn't agree with me, but I can eat all kinds of hot sauce. I love Tabasco's chipotle sauce and their green jalapeno sauce. So I frequently eat something like that, as particularly on chili. I like it. I grew up eating spicy food, and I tolerate the peppers fine. I just don't tolerate black pepper. So like cayenne pepper and jalapeno and stuff like that, I tolerate very well. I don't notice any side effect. But again, we're talking about a tiny, what is it? A teaspoon of hot sauce on a large meal or something like that. It makes up a very small percentage of my diet. So say the same thing about cheese. I like cheese, but cheese to me is more of a seasoning more than a food group. I know I've seen Raymond sitting there munching on that white cheddar. Like, I'm like, man, you ate like a steak's worth of I think it's white English cheddar he really likes, or something like that. So that's a little different, but if he tolerates it, he tolerates it. No big deal. And of course, dairy is super complicated. I mean, cheese is different than milk, and milk's different than cream, and butter is different from all of those. And then, is it pasteurized? Is it organic? Is it homogenized? Is it on and on and on? So, some people tolerate some form of dairy, some people tolerate it all, and some people tolerate none of it. Again, when you're coaching people, that's kind of one of the things you got to find out where they're at. So I eat a lot of very lean meat. So I eat a lot of raw top sirloin. There's very little fat there. And sometimes I realize I need a little more fat. And typically the way I add fat is I add sour cream or cream cheese, and I tolerate them just fine. Don't see a lot of other people on carnivore eating either one of those. And if you ever had, if you're ever eating pork rinds, a lot of times the unadulterated pork rinds, the ones that are fried in pork fat, when they're done, they are very dry. There's almost no fat left. And so what you have is a crunchy thing made out of protein, and it's really dry. So if you want to snack on those, you gotta moisten it somehow, presumably add some sort of fat. And so if you've ever had, sour cream on your pork rinds, you know what I'm talking about. It's fantastic. And then cream cheese is fantastic. And then if you make chili like I do, you just scoop up the chili with your pork rinds, and it's delicious. So anyways, that kind of reminds me of another conversation I was having with somebody, about the tedium or the boredom of carnivore. And I suppose if you're just on beef, salt, and water, that might get a little tedious, but for me, like I said, meat is meat. Doesn't matter whether I'm eating squid or I'm eating. Alice says, pork rinds with sour cream. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me whether I'm eating pork rinds or octopus. It's meat to me. So, and I was talking about this with Jonathan earlier today. It's like I'm one of those people that eats a lot of protein and a lower fat ratio compared to a lot of people. Let me see what Emily Harvo says here. By tolerate, do you mean not completely blimp up? I wish I tolerated cheese. I love it, but it makes me grow and grow horizontally. Yeah, no, I don't notice that with cheese, but in a given day, I might, if I eat some string cheese or something as a snack, I mean, I'm eating like 2 ounces of cheese out of, I mean, in a given day, like I was saying, I got to get in, 5,000 calories and up. So, 2 ounces of cheese is a drop in the bucket compared to, 40 ounces of top sirloin. So we can all do the math on that. So I'm eating 20 times more steak than I am cheese. So, I think that's leads me back to the old moniker that the dose makes the poison, right? So some people are just sensitive to certain foods, but in a general sense, the quantity of um in ratios, we talk about ratios of fat to protein all the time, but the quantity, a little bit of cheese as a seasoning on some meat is fine for most people, because if you're just putting some parmesan, sprinkling some grated parmesan on something, you could be eating like a few grams, or let's say an ounce maybe, but you put that on top of a 20-ounce steak or whatever you're eating, it's a very small amount. So Emily's saying she just got to keep it to an absolute minimum. So, but a great approach. Yeah. So I on one hand, I believe that modern culinary arts are really about making your food taste like something other than what it is. Um, and I think a lot of that came from the fact that people had trouble getting quality food. They had to cook it more, season it more, because it wasn't particularly palatable. So I know I even had an argument with a friend about putting salt on meat, which I don't have a problem with it. But like when I cut up a nice piece of top sirloin into bite-sized pieces and eat it, I generally just eat it the way it is. And my friend's like, no, you got to put salt on it. Salt brings out the flavor in the meat. And to me, it's not so much that it brings out the flavor as it changes the flavor, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think that's one of those things that we're all sort of programmed into. I mean, salt and pepper are like, at least in the West, they're like staple seasonings, right? Most things get salt and pepper on them. And, I ate that way most of my life. And then one day I was like, I noticed when I didn't put any pepper on the steak, I digested even better. And then the more times I mentioned the thing about black pepper, the more people I bumped into are like, yeah, I noticed the same thing. Black pepper just kind of sets my stomach off just a little bit. And a lot of us look at like how well we digested something, how flawless it felt, how it's literally the absence of discomfort or whatever, acid reflux, bloating, gas, all that stuff. And the absence of it is always seems like a positive sign, right? So um if you put pepper on and then you notice that you get a little twinge in your stomach or whatever, then it's probably something to avoid. And then maybe some people want to put up with it because they really like black pepper. And I know I'm sure a lot of people don't tolerate chili peppers very well, because I mean they're basically designed by nature and enhanced by man to be irritating. That's why they're spicy, right? So, but I choose to enjoy it. So I don't notice any negative side effects. So um, it's common for me to leave cheese out because like I like to eat like a brie or Havarti or cheddar at room temperature. I don't like. I know, when it's at room temperature, as opposed to being refrigerated, you can taste a lot more. A lot more flavor in the cheese. But I can have a block of cheese sitting out for, say a pound of cheese for more than a week. It takes at least that long to eat it. So I'm eating small amounts of cheese compared to the meat I consume. Because I eat shrimp, I eat anywhere from probably two-thirds of a pound to a quarter to two-thirds, occasionally like 3/4 of a pound of shrimp a day, and it's just boiled shrimp, just plain boiled shrimp, and I like it that way. But people are always like, "Oh, you got to put cocktail sauce on that," or I talk to people that I only eat fried shrimp. So, but both for convenience and time, saving time, I buy the frozen cooked shrimp and thaw it out, get the ice off of it, and pack it in containers. So my meals are prepped just like the sirloin, cut up into bite-sized pieces, put it in containers. Most of it goes in the freezer. Same thing with chili. I take all the whatever ground beef, steak, and everything that I didn't eat when it was fresh. It gets a few days on it, and then I throw it in the crock pot with things like cayenne pepper, some tomato sauce, and I cook that meat and eat that meat cooked and dip my pork rinds in it. So that all that stuff goes into containers with locking lids, glass containers with locking lids, and that's how that routine enables me to live a busy life and stay on carnivore and go to the gym and do what I want to do, right? And it's not for everybody, but I think there's a lot of variety in it. So the meals of sashimi and stuff are usually like on the weekend or special occasions, hanging out with friends. Joe and Justin were here. We went for sashimi at least twice, maybe 3 times, and each one of us ordered like the giant platter. Like the people at the restaurant were like, "You each want one of those?" And I'm like, "Mm-hmm." So they're not used to people coming in and just eating all meat. So when it's just meat and you're not eating all the trimmings and ordering appetizers and stuff like that, it's very doable. Well, it's kind of expensive, but it's very doable. So anyways, anybody else got any questions out there? I haven't seen Raymond Neff's not here. Haven't seen ADS tonight. Haven't seen Michael Maj tonight. This is me. It's me and all girls. I kind of like that though. So anyways, I wasn't gonna run this one real long. I just want to let everybody know the videos with Michael Griffiths is gonna come out before too long. Anybody who's carnivore, likes weightlifting, or autistic is gonna enjoy that one, and hopefully we'll do some more. He's a really nice guy. Enjoyed talking to him today. Been interacting with him on social media. He's in Autistic Carnivores, and he might be in Meat Mosaic as well. But he's just started building his YouTube channel and his online presence. Oh, Crystal's here. Hi, Crystal. It's Pagan Opera and Nicole. Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah. So, and for the folks who don't know, there is a Telegram group called Meat Mosaic. So you're welcome to join. It's a small group. You'll see Sly in there. Hey, that reminds me, I haven't seen Sly in here tonight. So Pagan Opera's in there, and Christina's in there. And so, join that. It's nice to keep in touch, let you guys know what, we discuss random things, and I'll give people a heads up when we do the live stream. Same thing in Meat Mosaic on Facebook. It's just kind of there to support the YouTube channel. And then, of course, anybody who's on the spectrum or has a family member on the spectrum, there's Autistic Carnivores. So let's see. Alice is saying, I'm curious about your lifting. Why do you lift so much? Why the goal of lifting heavier and heavier? Do you simply enjoy it? Yeah, the short answer is yes. I just enjoy lifting. So I used to be sort of a gym rat. I used to go to the gym in the morning. I originally started because traffic is so bad in LA. I would go early and hit the gym near work so I'd get through traffic as early as possible. And I did that, and I had some results or whatever, but I wasn't low carb until I was carnivore. So my diet was off, and um, I wasn't making great progress. But eventually, what really happened was what I generally describe as arthritis really set in. My feet hurt all the time. My hands hurt all the time. My back hurt. I'd get a sciatica really bad. And then one morning I woke up and, good night, Sarah, by the way. Sarah's hitting the hay. Um, I woke up one morning and my hands were so crippled I couldn't turn the doorknob to get out of the bedroom. So no more lifting. There was mornings when I'd wake up and my hands would be clenched tight, like maybe I'm holding the blanket or something, but like it really hurt to straighten out my hands and stuff like that. And somewhere I'd torn a shoulder. I fell just throwing the football around with friends at the beach, and I tripped over something and landed on my shoulder and tore my shoulder, and it was a problem. And somewhere in there, I ruptured a couple discs in my back. I've got, the laundry list is long, and people probably heard most of this, but I got a gunshot wound in both shins a year apart, and then I got one through my left hand sideways. And I've got, in fact, I like to gross people out. I've got bone chips floating around in my shins from not just the gunshot wounds, but accidents with pickaxes and just running into things. And I got pinned under a car, and it pulled all the soft tissue off my right hip, which is still a little bit deformed. It's still bigger than the left hip. So I had all these injuries that were painful, and on top of the arthritis, the general sort of joint pain. And so I couldn't lift anymore for, I'm going to say it was 8 years, but I don't remember exactly how long. And then I just went down the low carb rabbit hole, which rapidly led me to keto, which rapidly led me to carnivore. And then all that started going away. And in that time, I probably was carnivore for a couple of years before I actually went back to the gym. And the thing I realized I really missed was just lifting. And there's always this sort of mindset that you've got to lift and do cardio or whatever. But more and more, I became convinced that just lifting was fine. I didn't need to do the cardio, because when you do cardio and strength training, then your body it's trying to make you lighter and faster to make the cardio more efficient. And at the same time, you're asking it to build larger muscles. So there's a contradiction there. And I think that tends to hold people back. Now, if you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to get ready for a competition and you want to get super lean or something like that, then, maybe you're going to do that. And typically people bulk up to get stronger or more muscular, and then they diet down, right? They get rid of the body fat, but that always costs you muscle as well. So it's almost impossible to do that. So I like to just lift. To answer your question directly, yes, I just like to lift, and I'm always curious, how much can I lift? And like I was saying, I think to Jonathan earlier today, strength isn't necessarily just about muscle volume or muscle size, but it's also about getting your central nervous system to recruit more muscle fibers to contract at the same time. So a lot of times when you're lifting something heavy, you're not using the majority of the muscles that you could be using. I mean, it's just how human physiology works. So a lot of that is just trying to train your nervous system to not necessarily go into fight or flight mode where you take out all the stops, but that you let it know that you're doing this activity and you want to lift more. And perhaps there's some normal sort of limitations just so you don't injure yourself. But as you ease into it and your joints and your tendons get stronger and your bones get harder and stronger, um, then you can lift more without injuring yourself. And I injure myself less and less all the time. So I get tougher and tougher all the time, as it were, carnivore durable. So let's see. Alice says, wow, gunshot wounds, axes, pinned under a car, and arthritis, cardio not good. Yeah, it is a contradiction in your body. Yeah, and I mean if you're just lifting, you know, I don't want to say, lightly or not particularly aggressively, and you're not particularly worried about strength or, what they call hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is the practice of bodybuilding where you're shaping muscles so that people see the muscles, right? It's an aesthetics thing. If you're not particularly concerned with those, um, and you're doing some weightlifting and some cardio, then that you can maintain, good general fitness. But if you really want to excel at one or the other, you have to kind of minimize the other, right? So like a good example, I make example of Joe Zumbo. He's an avid cyclist, and so he's not going to go into the gym and do a bunch of upper body workouts and bulk up his torso, because he needs to be light and efficient on the bike, right? He needs to be able to hit another gear going up a hill, and if he's got to carry around another 40-50 pounds of muscle on his upper torso, it's not going to help, right? And so when he focuses just on cycling, he's going to be more efficient at cycling, um, with less muscle mass. And then and cycling is really mostly about the glutes. The calf muscles don't even really do that much for cyclists. So see, Emily Harvo has a comment here. Hubby and I just started at 5:30 a.m. CrossFit class. We are scaling it way down, and it's fun so far. Feel like PE class from school days. Yeah, so like Emily Harvo, Emily Penton also started CrossFit, and I got pals like Charmaine, um, sugar-free Charmaine. She's a CrossFitter, and that's really the battle in CrossFit, because if you guys you when you go to a CrossFit thing, they usually have a routine for everybody to do, and it often will say, run a mile around the box. um yeah, you should talk to Emily. She just got back into it. She used to do it, now she's doing it again. She goes at 5 o'clock in the morning, hits the box and does the workouts. And I think the thing about CrossFit is that you're sort of challenging your cardio and your endurance and your strength in all those different ways. And that's why it's so tough, is because you're asking your body to get stronger and to be able to move faster. So that is hard on people, but people do it for the challenge. And of course, CrossFit people, there's always like a community, like those, you go on the box and watch those people hitting it. They're always encouraging each other and pushing each other and stuff like that. And you walk in and every day is a different challenge, and so that in itself is the joy of that activity. And so a CrossFitter is never going to be an optimal marathon runner, and they're probably never going to be an optimal power lifter, right? They're doing both, and they're pushing their body to be as good as possible at both, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it is why it's so tough to do it. But it's also one of those things. It's far more complex than just strength training or hypertrophy, bodybuilding. And some people really enjoy those more complex challenges, and that's why they do it. I mean, and CrossFit has produced some pretty amazing athletes, both male and female. You see people doing monster sets with the weights and, all kinds of other challenges that are just highly impressive. And even a good CrossFitter is going to be far better weightlifter and probably far better sprinter than the average person by far, right? So imagine if you're really good at it. So yeah, but like I was talking about with Jonathan earlier today, it's like it's about finding that thing you really enjoyed, and it was the absence of being able to do things that boiled it down for me. I realized I just like lifting. I'm not the least bit interested in joining a competition. I'm not I'm not I'm not that interested in bodybuilding. I do forays into hypertrophy to see what happens. But I noticed quite quickly when I do all the different exercises to get a muscle to pop out, a group of muscles to be bulkier or whatever, and I was losing overall strength. The classic compound movements like deadlifting, squatting, overhead press, even bench press, those suffered when I tried to, you know, basically work on getting the muscles to pop. I lost strength in the posterior chain, which human beings are designed to have most of their strength up and down the back, right? And your biggest muscles are like your glutes and stuff like that. And the calf muscle on the back of the leg is much bigger than any of the muscles on the front, even in a bodybuilder, so that's sort of the natural state of human beings. So when you start trying to develop a bunch of muscle on the front of the body, you can sort of throw it out of whack. Like people walk funny when they have giant quads and tends to point their feet out and stuff like that. And you see less and less. Of course, you see less flexibility and stuff like that. So let's see. Emily says, yeah, it's kind of a hearted group. They accept our wimpy ways. And think she's talking about the CrossFit crew. And Alice says, oh, thanks for your answer. It was interesting. I love strength training with X3. It feels great. And some walking at the park. Yeah. I mean, human beings obviously evolved to walk, and I think walking and perhaps sprinting are, appropriate human activities, and if you can do those, you should stay fit, and I think I don't think, we evolved to to do, Olympic deadlifts necessarily or bench presses and stuff like that. But we probably did walk around picking things up and carrying them quite a bit. So sometimes when I go on walks, I do it weighted. So I have backpacks that are of various weights, and I have I basically use sandbags or chains or plates, dumbbell plates, barbell plates. But I have one backpack. It has something like 50 pounds of sand in it. So, and one of my activities is walk my dog. I don't really chart the activity because, um, when you do that with an extra 60 pounds on your back, you're getting a good workout. You're not necessarily getting your heart rate up. But I've noticed that when I focused on weightlifting, my endurance for things went up. My story I like to tell is my friend Aaron decided he wanted to drive in a demolition derby, and so he got the car, and it's derby day, and he asked me and a few other people to be on the pit crew to help fix the car in between heats and get the car ready and stuff like that. So that day started with me getting up early and packing tools, wrenches, jacks, all, power tools. So cutting tools, saws and grinders and all that kind of stuff, including, big crowbars, big sledgehammers. I love to brag about my 20-pound sledgehammer because I'm the only one I know that has one. And so I'm packing all that stuff and get it ready, and then load it in a truck, drive it to the fairgrounds, unload it from the truck, unload another truck full of tools, get things set up, and then a lot of times you're in a hurry and you're wearing steel toe boots. And so I'm sprinting around from place to place with heavy boots on. It's over 100 degrees. and then the cars get mangled, and you're trying to help people, and people are trying to help you and stuff like that, and you're pulling tires off, putting them back in, carrying fuel around, filling radiators back up, ripping radiators out, putting another radiator in, picking up the impact, and you're jacking up the car, pulling the wheels off, grabbing the impact, pulling the lug nuts off, putting the tires back on, or in some fashion helping with that, grabbing tools and carrying them to people. And then at the end of the day, you've got to try and get your wrecked car on a trailer and get it out of there. And then you've got to pack all the tools, put them back in the trucks, and by then it's after midnight. And then that day I was well over 9,000 calories by midnight when my digital record stops. And then I'm up for another 2 hours, doing the follow-up on that. So anyways, I had no problem sustaining that pace all day. I know I was on my feet. I barely ever sat down because, one, in the pit there's no chairs, and two, I made it out to the stands to watch some of the activities, and then tried to sit with people I knew in the stands for a little bit, but that was it. And then it was running back around the arena and getting back into the pits. And of course it was a very exciting day, so the excitement helped sustain the activity. But I'm 51 years old, and I mostly drive a desk, but sometimes at work I do a lot of physical stuff, lifting steel and stacking it, or loading trucks, unloading trucks, and stuff like that. So I don't have any problem, and I can, I work with a bunch of 25-year-olds. I generally have a lot more stamina than they do. Oh, Marge is here. Hello, Marge. Nice to see you in the chat. So I was a little surprised that just lifting helped increase my endurance, my stamina. But when I lift, I go to the gym, I don't waste time. And again, most of the people at the gym are half my age, and they're sitting there on the bench staring at their phone. They do 3 or 4 sets in an hour, and in that time I've done 30-40 sets on multiple exercises, whether they're machines or free weights or whatever. I do, like I did biceps and triceps yesterday. It's like, do a set of biceps on whatever. I'm always trying to work in that weight range where I'm somewhere around 80% of max single rep. And then I go hammer the triceps and go back, do the biceps, and go back, do the triceps. And then I switch it up and I do the biceps a different way and the triceps a different way. And then I went back later that day and did it all over again. I did bicep and tricep, but I did them in a different way. And, that break in the middle, recover, eat, fuel up, and hit it again. And that seems to be optimal for me. But doing the strength training rapidly, I mean, there's a lot of people who are convinced that you really don't develop great strength without doing it quickly. Whereas in bodybuilding, they tend to lift slower, they tend to lift lighter, and they tend to lift with longer repetitions, perhaps even more sets. Whereas in strength training, it's typically a faster lift, higher weight, fewer reps, and perhaps depends, on what muscle groups you're trying to develop. But like when I'm working on shoulders, it's quite complicated because it's not just pulling up or pushing down or whatever, but trying to develop shoulder muscles at different angles, trying to develop the strength, but not necessarily trying to get those muscles to bulge. So, and Emily says, oh, no wonder I like you. I'm also 51. 89 is fine. Oh, so you graduated in 1989, just like me, huh? All right. Yeah. So that's class of 89, Pasadena High School, Pasadena, California. So yeah, there you go. I already went longer than I was planning, but if anybody else has any questions, Alice asked a nice question. And yeah, the X3 bar is a really good tool to have for a lot of reasons. They're not inexpensive to buy, but they're very compact, and that type of resistance training tends to be safer than lifting free weights or even machines. So at the very least, it's a great way to get started. I know I've played with Justin had a X3 bar. My friend Aaron. In fact, when Aaron was like, "Yeah, what should I do to get in shape for the demolition derby?" Because, you're in a car. He got flipped over right away. It's pretty violent, and it's like, how do I toughen up so the impact's not you know tearing all my joints apart. And I was like, well, he's not a gym rat. He's not a gym guy. He's a very busy guy. In fact, I said I recommended he try the X3 bar, and he did get the X3 bar, and uh, uh, and he did enjoy it, and he followed through with it, and his kids start using it, so probably his wife too. So it's a good tool. A lot of those exercises, when you're been lifting as long as I have, maybe there's not quite enough resistance there for everything I might want to do, but in general, it's a great tool. Like I said, it's compact. You could travel with it. I know Sean Baker traveled with it when he went overseas, and it's kind of designed that way, and it's very high quality. I work on designs. I work with a lot of metal and stuff at work and stuff like that. And so when I see a product like that and I see how well manufactured it is, I'm like, yeah, it's probably worth the money because of the materials they use, and how well finished it is and how well thought out it is. I mean, the bands aren't going to last forever because all those rubber like compounds, they have a limited lifespan and stuff like that. But and March says, "Sorry I'm late. I was up all night." Yeah, it's all right. Better to be late than never. It's good to have you here. So I know Marge likes to lift. She's been an avid lifter for a long time. So that's one of the things we got in common. We enjoy talking about lifting. So anyways, anybody else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Should I cut this one off? It's already over an hour. So, and I don't mind it. I don't mind it going longer, but I'm not going to talk just for the sake of talking. So, anyways, we didn't get Raymond Neff in here. He's probably at some concert somewhere. That's what he loves to do. Goes around, goes to concerts. I'm not sure what ADS does, but it's not like him to miss a live stream. So Justin should be back next week, but no guarantees. Hopefully, we'll get another um, video in with Joe Zumbo soon, and hopefully, we get Emily Penton in here, and maybe we'll have a Raymond Nazon sighting one of these days. Kind of miss the old days when we all did it together. It was so much fun. But you guys too. If one of you guys wants to come in here, Emily, you want to come in? Marjorie, you want to come in? Alice, you want to come in? Sarah, I know Sarah went to bed. Crystal, which is Pagan Opera, and Nicole. If you guys ever want to come on sometime and chat it up, just hit me up, let me know, work it out. I mean, of course, I normally record on Sunday evenings Pacific time, but I'm flexible. I can usually make time other times on the weekends or in the evenings during the week. So I like getting to know people. I like hearing people tell their stories because I think it helps other people. All the anecdotal evidence adds up to something. Oh, there we go. Have a double Emily episode. Get Emily Harvo and Emily Penton on here together. Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I miss talking to you guys so much. I know I was talking to Amanda Leah and um, Becky the other day. And, it's like, man, I used to get to talk to those people, a couple times a week at least. And God, dial forward, here we are. And it's like, hardly get to talk to them anymore. So I miss that. So it's nice to feel like you got all those carnivore friends out there and that you're part of a community, and it's nice to keep up with people and see what they're doing. I think Becky and Amanda have launched their own group, their own website. It's on what's that platform called? One of the platforms. Uh, It's God, I can't remember, but their group is called Fab Nutrition, Fab. Somebody knows. Locals. Yeah, it's on Locals. Yeah. Thanks, Emily. So yeah, so they got a whole new group going, which is great. There's plenty of room in the carnivore sphere for more groups and more platforms and more. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, we should get Becky on here with Amanda Leah. They're doing some cool things. They are. So definitely love to have them on. I'll let them know. In fact, I've been trying to catch up with Amanda. So we were messaging the other day. So anyways, yeah, I'd love to have them on again. It'd be fantastic. So yeah. Oh, I didn't actually say the name of the group. It's on a platform called Locals, and the name of their group is Fab. I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, I know. I gotta open the Locals app. Duh. Come on, Tom. Think. Come on, phone. Cooperate. Do. Where's Locals? Should be right here. Oh, there it is. Fab. Yeah, it's Fab Intuition. That's what it is. Fab Intuition. So yeah, if you guys are on Locals, or if you're not, get on Locals and check it out. So I never know if I'm going to expand into another platform because I barely have time to do what I'm going to do, but we're all hoping we find that platform that persists, that can be on par with, YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that. So Fabby. Yeah. Becky's launching a fat fasting class soon. Fabby. I gotcha. Yeah. So there you go. Fat fasting, popular thing, powerful tool for, and but not necessarily for every one of my situations. But yeah, it's always good to let people know that those what do we call it, strategies are out there, because it might just be the ticket you need to get you to your goals, right? So anyways, I'm going to sign off, say goodnight to everybody. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for posting, Marge and Emily and Alice. And let's see, Sarah's gone now. But Christina was here. Who else? I'm forgetting somebody. Oh yeah, Pagan Opera and Nicole. So anyways, it's good talking to everybody. Join the Meet Mosaic Facebook group, get on the Meet Mosaic Telegram group so we can stay in touch. And until next time, everybody, eat some meat. Oh, good night, Christina. I hope you're doing good. But eat some meat, feel better. And whatever you do, don't fall down that carb hole. Ending the broadcast.